situation that he can be more of a run producer. Now, he produced very nicely at the top of the lineup because eventually he's going to hit with guys on base, but giving him a chance to hit in his first at-bat potentially, with Eric Hosmer on third base and Billy Butler on first base, he's got a chance to drive in 2 or 3 runs in his first time he swings at that, as opposed to maybe having to wait till the second or third time through the lineup. So I think it's just a matter of having better options now, this time around, as opposed to in the previous, last couple of years. You just didn't have maybe the tools or the ingredients to use to get the production that Ned Jost hopes to get now with Alex batting fifth.
I mean, Alex, he's just been a good spark plug type of leadoff man for them. Alex would tell you, well, you asked him, you put him on the spot last week, which I thought was good. You said if you were making out the lineup, where would you put yourself, which was really well crafted. And the only thing that would even top that and the caliber of that question was the well thought out answer, where he said everybody would love to bat third, but that's not the case. He has never viewed himself as a leadoff hitter. He adapted to that role. He has said from day one that, look, I'm not a leadoff guy. I've really never hit leadoff. But he went about things a little bit differently in that role. I think he sees himself as more. I know he sees himself as more of a middle of the lineup guy. And Monty, some players are affected where they're at. Some aren't. Really the same too with closers. You always say you never really know until they're there. Some guy might have the stuff but can't handle it. Other guys can. Well, we've seen Alcides Escobar struggled at the top of the lineup, better at the bottom of the lineup. We've seen guys that, for whatever reason, you'd put them at the 3 or 4 and they wouldn't do well, but you'd move them down, they'd do okay. Gordon seems to be a guy that no matter where you put him, and he has said this, he's fine. It's interesting because perception sometimes can go about things, and, we're lucky that we have access to stats at our fingertips, and everybody does, but it's sometimes people know how to find it and some don't. But I thought it's interesting last year, the bulk of his plate appearances were in the leadoff spot, and he had some down months, but he batted .255 in the leadoff with a .323 on base percentage. Now, batting in the 3-hole, very small sample size. He batted .391 last year. And if you look back over his career, he's had good success batting leadoff, but he's had success in other spots too. I don't think he really cares. I mean, I think he might care if he was batting 8th or 9th, but I know that he would rather be in the middle of that lineup.
Well, and I agree. I think if you look at the state of where the team is now, if you really go back to the second half of last year, in my opinion, that's kind of when the tryout camp kind of ended. I think it was a point when the team had suddenly put themselves in a position to be competitive during the second half of the season and compete for postseason. You're going into the season now without all the unknowns. You pretty much know what's going to happen with regards to the lineup, and it's just a matter of going out there and performing, being consistent and staying healthy, and hopefully you get the production and you get some guys that step forward and have the years that you expect them to have. Just like Eric Hosmer did the second half of last year, you hope that Mike Moustakas has the type of year this year that everyone expects it to have, and you just have to be consistent. I think Alex batting in the 5th slot, he's exactly in the middle part of the lineup. It's going to give him a chance to do some things that maybe we've not seen him be in a position to do before because of the 4 guys that will be hitting ahead of him.
Well, real quick, and then we'll head to a break. Just looking at his career numbers, he's had the most at-bats batting leadoff. The second most at-bats he's had. I say, and Eric's not the only one that says that. I've heard a lot of people say, why are you messing with Gordon? Why are you jacking with him? Why are you messing with his head? He's just not affected by that kind of stuff. Some are, some aren't. Well, Monty, when we come back, I want to ask you about the move. We saw Bruce Chen this weekend. They signed him. They surprised a few people by designating for assignment Emilio Bonifacio. I want to talk about that as the big move of the week because it caught some people off guard. I would like to say we saw some form of it coming, but we'll explain that when we come back, and hoping to catch up with Greg Holland in just a bit here on the Sports Radio 810 Hot Stove Show.
The Sport.
Whatever you require for audio, video, and broadcast solutions, it's Professional Video Supply. PVS is a leading supplier and integrator of pro video and audio gear for the Midwest. For the boardroom, worship, production houses, medical facilities, TV stations, and sports networks, PVS has it. Canon, Sony, Yamaha, Sharp, and hundreds of others. From a single camera or touchscreen display to an entire TV studio, remember Professional Video Supply, the official video source for 810 WHB TV at pvskc.com. pvskc.com.
Dish in KC is half price. Looking for live entertainment? Nobody in town plays more live music than jazz. Check out our website, jazzkitchen.com, for daily band listings. Both locations, the original on 39th and State Line, and at the Legends in Village West. Jazz, where there's always a party every night.
Some of the best teams in the world are in Kansas City. The Chiefs, the Royals, Sporting, and the Border Patrol.
The Border Patrol? St. John and Bucati? Those two guys couldn't hold on.
Easy there, fellas. We may not be the two godfathers of Kansas City sports like you guys are,
but we do know how to have a good time talking sports.
And having a good time like Gary Lezak has a good time.
Make the Border Patrol a part of your morning, just like I do.
Watch Sports Radio 810's Border Patrol, weekday mornings from 7 to 8 on 38 The Spot.
It's a good price. It's low mileage.
They were very straightforward about the lowest price and
no haggling, no hassle type thing. I'm all for that.
How did we do on your trade-in value?
Really well. I was hoping for half of what I got for it.
I got, over what I was thinking I was going to get for it.
We'll be back ourselves. Even if we don't live in the area, we'll figure out a way.
Flavorful steak you'll ever taste. That's why they call themselves Best Filet Mignon. Go to bestfiletmignon.com and order now. Choose between USDA Prime, Choice, or Select. Your steak is cut, vacuum sealed, and shipped fresh, not frozen like Omaha steaks. They even throw in the free shipping. Then grill them up and, well, you'll know what to do after that. Just promise you won't use any steak sauce, and trust me, for the best steak you'll ever taste, guaranteed, go to bestfiletmignon.com. That's bestfiletmignon.com and put in the coupon code Jacobs.
Garnet Stone.
Welcome back to the Sports Radio 810 Hot Stove Show, brought to you by your Midwest Ford dealers. Visit us at yourmidwestforddealers.com. Monty, so much to talk about. All the prognosticators and the predictions are coming out, and it's been interesting to look at them. Some are favorable to the Royals, some are not favorable to the Royals. I've heard some from fans that think going all the way this year. I've heard from others that think there's absolutely no chance this team is going to do any. But I think more people than not, though, are optimistic with what they have seen. I think that they've got the pieces that they believe in place that can win this. Obviously, things have to go the right way. I think that's true for most teams, but I think overall they're happy with the offseason they've had.
I would think so. I think if you look at the situation from last year, the rotation obviously was the biggest, in my opinion, turnaround from previous years that we saw, and you've still got James Shields and Jeremy Guthrie at the top of that lineup, or that rotation. You bring in, Jason Vargas, and you've just re-signed Bruce Chen. Who knows who's going to be the five? Is it going to be Danny Duffy? Is it going to be Luke Hochevar? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Yordan Ventura? There's a lot of ifs there. One of those guys needs to step in and be a replacement for those quality innings that Ervin Santana provided. We know Ervin Santana is not signed with anyone yet. We know that there's still some glimmer that he could potentially be wearing royal blue, but I think you look at the rotation with the signing of Chen now this past weekend, and I think they're pretty well set. So I think the rotation has to perform. I think it's, again, the biggest factor in any team that wins. They have to get roughly 1,000 innings out of their five guys that take the hill every fifth day.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was reading a blog on ESPN today from David Schoenfield, who's ranking the teams, going 5 of them every day from 30 down to 1. And we've seen, I don't remember who it was a couple of weeks ago. It was either Ken Rosenthal or Buster Olney, one of the big names, and I think those two are among the biggest in baseball. And they did theirs, and the Royals came in at 9. Today he went, I think it was 18 to 12 or 18 to 11, whatever it is. I'm not counting well here, but it was interesting earlier in the week to see when he revealed the bottom 5, to see Minnesota and the White Sox in there. Maybe not interesting, that wasn't a surprise, but just to see that half of the divisional opponents are considered among the worst in baseball. But today he came out and he had the Royals ranked 18th. What was interesting to me on that, Monty, was that he had the Royals just a little bit under 500, but kind of kept saying, I really, really hope I'm wrong on this one. It's almost like he's looking for a good story. I don't know if he has any ties to the Royals, but he really felt like the pitching would regress, that guys like Jeremy Guthrie would regress. We hear that a lot from people, especially people that study some of the sabermetric numbers, when they look at Jeremy Guthrie and they say, well, and in this article it said that his strikeout rate, well, there are two things that caught my eye in this article. He said that his strikeout rate was on the border of being able to stay in a rotation. Yet I look at Jeremy Guthrie and you see his numbers. He's got, I was looking at, since he came over to the Royals, he has the 8th most innings pitched in all of baseball, or the 9th most innings pitched, and it's Kershaw and R.A. Dickey and Shields and Wainwright and Lee, Verlander, Matt Latos that are ahead of him. So, for one, that was interesting to me. He's had success. So I would ask you that first. Why has he been so successful with the Royals?
Well, I think he's very intelligent. He understands the ballpark that he pitches in. He pitches very well in the ballpark, and I don't know what his splits are, but it just seems as though being a fly ball type guy, he can locate his fastball in all 4 quadrants of the strike zone, and that allows him to get.
Because Monty always calls in on the backdoor line, tell him to just dial 913-381-10.
Deep fly ball outs, but he understands the ballpark, he understands his defense, and he's able to really kind of reach back at times and get that big out when he needs to. So he's a versatile pitcher. He understands, again, how it's done successfully, and he's since his trade here and when he came over from the Rockies, he had a couple of rough starts to get things going, but he made some adjustments. Dave Island worked with him, and now he's become a guy that's kind of a steady Eddie guy. I mean, he doesn't have the upside, in my opinion, that Ervin Santana displayed last year, but he's a guy that's going to be very, very solid. And I think Vargas will be the same type guy from the left-handed side. You're going to see a guy that has the ability to go out there and really kind of pitch to his ballpark. If I were a starting pitcher, I would love to pitch in Kauffman Stadium because I understand that I don't have to really be too fine, especially early in counts, and maybe get some easy outs early in the game, which allows me to build those innings up, and I'm still around in the 6th and 7th inning because I've not extended all these pitches early in the game.
I think, and you and I are both in the same camp here. We probably study some of the sabermetric numbers and look at that more than some of the other people that we work with. But we also talk to a lot of people. I mean, I really personally, I see value in both sides of talking to scouts, talking to players, also looking at these numbers. And because a guy has a low strikeout rate, okay, that doesn't always bode well. But when you look at him and his numbers sabermetrically, they don't always project out to be what they are. His FIP, his XFIP, all of those suggest that there's going to be a regression, and they're always worse than his ERA. But yet, other than the mishap in Colorado, it seems like he continues to do well. The other one that surprised me in this column was talking about how if Alcides Escobar doesn't pick it up because his on-base percentage was so bad that he'll be in danger of losing his job, and that's when I thought, that's not true. I mean, you can pick
Greg, sir,
on him offensively. And then I was listening to Jim Bowden today, actually interviewing Greg Holland, of all people, on MLB radio and talking about how Alcides Escobar is absolutely one of the best in baseball because of what he does defensively. And so I guess people see the game different ways. I want to shift gears, and we'll get back to talking about that move with Bruce Chen, Emilio Bonifacio in a bit. But we can't wait any longer because we now have the man who authored the greatest single season by a closer in Royals history based on saves, and a lot of saves career-wise now on the telephone between Greg Holland, Jeff Montgomery, and myself. I contributed nothing to it, but we are joined right now by Royals all-star closer Greg Holland, who, as I think I heard him on the radio today saying, and as he told me this weekend, he's been in the cave for a few months, right, Hammer?
Yeah, that's right. I don't, when you get home and get to see family and spend time with family is pretty important. So it's kind of my way of not thinking about baseball for a while, but, once you get all the turkey eat and all the ham eat, it's time to get back to baseball, so I'm ready to go at it. Yeah,
and I'll let Monty ask all the big questions coming up here because I know you guys have a lot in common. But I will say, I thought, Monty, I don't know if I told you this, I thought Greg, we call him Hammer, by the way. All of his teammates call him Holly, but you and I are the only ones that call him Hammer. I think it sounds better than Holly, and there's a long story to it. But I like, when we got done with our TV interview, he said, did I do okay? He said, I've been in the cave all winter long, but I've been in the mirror trying to talk a little bit and get rid of the accents. So there's the tongue in cheek of Greg Holland. I thought you did good too.
Yeah, well, that's my way of trying to be funny. I don't.
It was.
I don't really talk to myself in front of the mirror.
I know you don't.
I want everyone to know that first off, but it's one of the things. I did a banquet this off season for my home or my college, Western Carolina, and I told him, I was like, this is way more nerve-wracking than pitching in the big leagues. It's just something I'm not comfortable with at all, and I'm sure a lot of players aren't. But it's also part of the business. You got to be able to, you got to be able to answer the questions at the end of the day.
Well, Greg, talk about some of those questions. I go back to Philadelphia early in the season. I believe it was the second series of the year. And you had gotten a save in Chicago. I think maybe it was the Royals' first win of the year, but you weren't real pleased with the way things went. It wasn't like an easy 1-2-3 inning. You had a couple games in Philadelphia where we know one didn't go so well. A lot of people were saying, maybe Greg Holland's not the right guy for this job to be this closer. Maybe Kelvin Herrera is more cut out for it with his blazing fastball and parachute changeup. Talk a little bit about how you were able to get things on track after that. Maybe not so stellar start, but after that, it just seemed like you were lights out from the rest of the season.
Well, it's something that I'm learning, and I came a long way in this, but it's staying par for the course. It's knowing that you're doing the things you need to be doing to be ready on the mound, and that starts early in the day with your mental and physical preparation. Starts in the off season. You continue it in spring training and end of the season. And if you're putting in the work to be ready to go, there's no need to panic. And it's something that's it's hard not to when you're struggling as a competitor because you want to be out there helping your team. But there's times when you're going to struggle. I don't care who you are. So for me, it's just being able to take a deep breath after a rough outing and say, listen, I'm doing the things I need to do. It's going to work itself out. And, you can sleep at night and wake up the next day refreshed and ready to go at it again, and that's something I had to tell myself.
Well, oftentimes you go into a season understanding what your role is going to be. Maybe last year there was a little bit of an uncertainty on exactly how things were going to work out with the way that things worked with the Jonathan Broxton, Joaquin Soria situation with the injuries and so on and so forth. But going into this season, you know that you had a tremendous season last year. You know that you had a lot of focus, a lot of excitement in your season and your career. Coming into this season, I assume it's the same preparation you're going to go into this year exactly the way you did in any other season?
Yeah, and that's with two things in mind. Keep my body as healthy and as ready to go as I can to be ready for opening day and be ready to compete. And the other one is to get to the playoffs. That's really the only two things. I feel like everyone in our locker room, from a personal standpoint, feels like they have something to prove each and every year to get better individually. And I think at the end of the day, when you're talking about 30 guys or 40 guys, however many people it ends up being at the end of the year that take part in a big league season, if everyone's wanting that, that's what makes us special, and that's what brings us together at the end of the day, and that's what's going to make us successful. So, it's pretty plain and simple. Go out there, prepare yourself, and be ready to go opening day and help your teammates win.
Royals All-Star closer Greg Holland joining us. I want to go a little bit deeper into that conversation because, this is a mindset and an attitude that we hear a lot of successful baseball players, not just closers, talk about. Being able to kind of, flush it, move on to the next day, having the confidence in yourself. And I'm not saying you weren't that when you came up, but it just seems to me, in my observations, that, you were still a young guy trying to find your place in the big leagues to prove that you belonged. And you, to me, sound more now like a guy over the last couple of years, like maybe what Joaquin Soria used to act like. I mean, I remember seeing Soria, it was about 3 or 4 years ago maybe now, and there was a really bad loss when we were down in Texas. Just a crazy ending, and he ended up with the blown save, and it was a really rough game. And I remember getting off the elevator, Greg, in the hotel, and he happened to be in front of me, and he was just, kind of talking on his phone. And you'd never know whether he had lost or won, and I'm sure that it bothered him. But I just remember at that point thinking, man, I don't know if I could do that because it would just be killing me inside, and you just couldn't tell from his demeanor. And so, I was wondering, at what point did you figure that out, and who have you learned it from the most? I mean, was it Soria? Was it Broxton? Was it talking to guys like Monty? What would you say?
Well, I've joked with you before, and the joke being that if you give it up enough in the minor leagues, you either learn to deal with it or you're out of the game, which isn't the case. But it's a learning process, and it's something I'm still learning. And all the people you mentioned have helped me along the way. Monty, Broxton, Soria helped me so much. He helped that whole basic group of guys in the bullpen. Because, we were all basically rookies down there together with him, and we all just kind of sat back and watched him go about his business. And it's one of those things where if you know you're prepared mentally and physically, at the end of the day, you can look at yourself and say, hey, I was ready to go. I didn't get it done. But as a competitor, I want the ball tomorrow, and I want a chance to prove that I should be here in this spot with a game on the line. And if you're a competitive person, you want the ball when the game's on the line. And, I think that's something that you kind of are born with, but you also have to learn, especially as a young player, being able to process the information and process the speed of the game. So it's a culmination of a bunch of different things, but it starts with watching the people who know how to do it, watch them do it, and try to emulate that.
And Greg, I think it's really important to note that oftentimes people talk about those last 3 outs of the game. It is different. There's no doubt about that. Do you feel like pitching in that role makes you a more effective or a more complete pitcher and brings out the best in you?
Well, I'm not sure because when I first, in 2011, when I first started to kind of find the groove and figure out the day in and day out process of the major leagues, I got to a point where I was setting up for Soria, and I've always said there's times in the 6th, 7th inning that are more pivotal than the 9th inning. You come in with 2nd, 3rd, nobody out, and you need to, at worst, give up 1 run. Keep it tied, give your team a chance to win. So there's so many different innings and situations where the game's on the line. That for me, the 9th inning, yeah, it's tough, but only if you make it. It's the big leagues. All innings are tough. All outs are tough. So I take it from the standpoint is break it down as small as you can, focus on 1 pitch. That way you don't get caught up in the moment. If you're thinking about 1 pitch, what the hitter's trying to do, where you want to throw the pitch, you're not worried about, I just walked 2 guys in a row. Things are spinning too fast. If you can compartmentalize it and break it down, that keeps you focused on the task at hand instead of getting caught up in the moment.
Hey, Greg, how much do you? I know you're not on Twitter, although you have relatives that are. I know most players say they try to ignore that stuff and you don't pay attention to it. But in that closer's role, Monty, you know this as well as anyone. I almost call it like the kicker's role in football, but so much more important, such a bigger contributor. But just in the sense that you're going to be the hero, you're going to be the GOAT, you're going to win the game, you're going to lose the game. With you guys, it's pretty much every time you're out there that's going to be the case. And there were people really early on, just a week or so into the season, like Monty was talking about earlier in the show, that were immediately saying, we need somebody else. Let's go with Herrera. And of course, a few weeks later, you were the most popular guy you could have run for mayor in this city. And I think that's the nature of the position. How much of that do you hear, pay attention to? Does it bug you? Does it make you laugh a little bit? How do you see all that?
Well, it doesn't make me laugh, because if those things are getting said, that means I'm not getting the job done, point blank. But at the end of the day, if you're a true competitor, you're going to be 10 times harder on yourself than anyone else is going to be. And I had a good year last year, but at the end of the day, I want to go out there and do better than that this year. I want to help get the Kansas City Royals to the playoffs. So I don't look at individual statistics. I look at helping my team win. And it's pretty point blank. It's cut and dry. I want to go out there and win. When we don't win, I feel like it's my fault. And the other 24 guys in the locker room, they all feel like it's their fault. You can go 3 for 4 with 3 doubles, but if your 1 out is popping up with men on 3rd and 1 out in the infield, that guy feels responsible, and that's what's bringing us closer together, and that's what's making us more competitive. Every single person feels responsible, feels like each at bat, each pitch is pivotal in the game, and I think it's going to carry us a long way.
Well, Greg, you just answered the question I was going to ask you next, is how do you have a better year? And obviously, it's not getting 50 saves. It's winning a divisional championship and playing in postseason. And we certainly expect great things from everyone on the team. But what you've done to really anchor that bullpen, I'm sure will go a long way in helping you individually and your team accomplish those goals you talked about.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I know it's generic, but I honestly, in my heart, I hope we beat everyone by 10 and we don't ever have a stressful moment in the game. But at the end of the day, that's not how baseball is played. It's played fast. It's played competitively. You're going to have high-stress moments. I said during FanFest, how are you going to measure success? Well, I'm going to measure success not on my numbers, because if we go to the playoffs, you could make up the most bogus numbers of all time for me, and I'm going to feel like my year was a success because we got a chance to go get a ring and a World Series championship. And I think that the unselfishness of our team, I think everyone in the locker room feels the same. We don't really care what the numbers are individually, because we've had those accolades. We've had Gold Gloves. We've had guys throw 200 innings. We've had guys have career years, from the bullpen, from the infield, the outfield. We've had rookies play very well. Well, we haven't got to the playoffs. So the individual awards aren't nearly as important as us getting to the playoffs and giving a winning team back to, the city of Kansas City.
And I think that's a very good point, because a lot of times players go through stages in their careers. Most players go through the stage where they're just trying to establish themselves as a major league player. Then I want to try to get in a position where I have some financial security. And fortunately, a lot of you guys have kind of gone through all of those stages now. And like you mentioned, everyone now understands what the goal is for the team. And forget about all the individual stuff. Forget about the compensation situation. Let's just try to come together and be the best team we can be all together. And I think that's a really I don't know, it's really kind of a wild card with regards to the Royals roster right now, because you've got so many guys now that have gotten to that stage. The Royals done a great job in locking up some of the younger players, a multi-year deal, so they took care of all those concerns. Where am I going to be playing? How much money am I going to make? And now you got guys that collectively can pull together and hopefully win a divisional title.
Yeah, and, like you said, whether you're worried about taking care of your family at the end of the day or not, if everyone's winning, then everyone gets taken care of. I mean, that's the nature of the business. So, and I think that's really where it stems from. And we really, it's an unselfish locker room. It has been for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's been a process with the young guys, me included, learning how to deal with the grind of the baseball season and learning how to deal with failure a little bit. Because there were times where when we struggled, we kind of let it build on itself. But now we know how to deal with a rough stretch where we lose 5 out of 7, 3 out of 4. And I think at the end of the day, that's going to help us in the long run of things.
Visiting with Royals All-Star closer Greg Holland, and a couple of things before we let you go, or at least a couple more from me. One, of course, I could ask you about all your teammates, but I think one of the guys that just has, captured the hearts and minds really of Royals fans, and it's starting to spread around the country a little bit as far as knowledge of his talent, is your catcher Salvador Perez. You've known this now for quite a while, but of all the things about Salvi, what's the best of having him behind the plate?
Well, I got 2 answers for you. One is I can throw the ball into the dirt with a man on third, and I'll have to worry about it. That's the obvious answer for me as a pitcher. But the other one, and I think it kind of gets overlooked, because we always talk about James Shields and what he's meant to bringing this team together, and he's done an incredible job about helping to mesh this team, bringing a winning atmosphere, an expectation of winning, because he's been there, done that. But Salvador Perez, he comes to the field every day with an energy. He's excited. He's intimate with every single player. He's interactive with every single player. He's never negative, other than maybe slamming his bat down if he makes a pivotal out or something. But it never really tends to carry on with him. He's really upbeat, energetic, day in, day out, night in, night out, and he loves the game of baseball. And I think that's something that when you play 162 games, it's easy sometimes to kind of get lulled down with it and just be like, okay, well, I got a job to do. He plays the game like a kid, and that helps all of us remain, hey, we're playing baseball. We need to compete and have fun. This is a fun game. And he does so much outside of his physical abilities that I don't think a lot of people have given him credit for. And I think that's something that needs to be said about the player that he is.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up, because we were just talking in our last segment about the emerging leadership of Alex Gordon, along with Eric Hosmer and Salvador Perez being younger guys that are starting to step up. So interesting that you said that. I want to ask you, and I'll just say that, we're lucky. I might get an eye roll from you here. I might not. I don't know. We can't see. It's radio. But we love corresponding with your dad. And Monty and I had a chance to spend some time with him during one of the games this year that we weren't televising. And I'm just saying that because you come from a good family, and he's a lot of fun to be around. And I know he lives and dies with it. So that's fun. But I would ask this question to you, because you're one of the more humble guys that we know, and you'll poke fun at yourself too. But If we were to ask your wife, Lacey, one thing about Greg that just drives her crazy or just something that we don't know, what would she say?
God, there's so many things. I'll tell you a random one that just somehow pops in my head. When I get out of the shower in the morning, I go clean my ears out with a Q-tip. I always leave a Q-tip on the sink, and it's literally 2 steps to the bathroom trash can, and I seem to never find the trash can with a Q-tip. And she absolutely hates it. She's kind of a clean freak, and it works out well because I would be completely nasty without her. I'd wait till it's getting knee high to decide I need to clean something, but it's pretty funny. It's marriage it's funny. It's the little things you learn to love about an individual, and that's kind of how she is. I that's the stuff I remember. Stuff like that. I eat too loud sometimes. I'll just sit here out of the corner of my eye staring at me, and I'm like, what? She's like, you sound like a horse. I'm like, oh, well, I'm just eating. So that's
too much time with the guys.
No, that's beautiful, and I our thoughts are with Lacey on that because she's got to put up with it. And by the way, you don't need to be a neat freak, Hammer, to think that that's disgusting. Not chucking your Q-tips.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's pretty disgusting just to leave them on the sink. But I'm a busy man. I'm like 007. I got places I need to go. That's 10 seconds a day. If you live 70 years, that's got to be like 7 or 8 minutes off your life right there, putting something in the trash.
Oh, you're beautiful. It's busy being in the cave all winter long. We can't wait to see you and surprise. That was great insight, by the way, too. I had no idea where you'd go with it, but I knew you'd bring something strong. Hey, we'll see you soon, and we're really looking forward to a fun 2014.
Oh, yeah, we all are, too. And it's good to talk to you guys again. Monty, I enjoy it as always. Joel.
We've been doing this for a long time, so we'll look forward to continue doing it. It's Greg, as we say, the Hammer Holland. I say hi to your dad, Scott, too, for us, all right?
Will do, and I'm sure he'll probably be tweeting you later tonight at some point.
It might already be there right now. Thanks, Greg.
All right, thanks, guys. See you.
Royals all-star closer, Greg Holland. I'm going to step aside. Hopefully that shows people, Monty, a little bit of the fun personality that we deal with on top of and along with the obvious great skills that he has, too. We really have a lot of fun around Greg Holland. Much more, not actually much more, but a little bit more coming up on the Hot Stove Show, brought to you by your Midwest Ford dealers. Visit us at yourmidwestforddealers.com and by the independent tire dealers. Locally owned and operated. Find an independent tire dealer near you by going to itdroll.com or call 1-877-ITD-ROLL. Back with more after this.
Whatever you require for audio, video, and broadcast solutions, it's Professional Video Supply. PVS is a leading supplier and integrator of pro video and audio gear for the Midwest. For the boardroom, worship, production houses, medical facilities, TV stations, and sports networks, PVS has it. Canon, Sony, Yamaha, Sharp, and hundreds of others. From a single camera or touchscreen display to an entire TV studio, remember Professional Video Supply, the official video source for 810 WHB TV at pvskc.com. pvskc.com.
Dish and KC is half price. Looking for live entertainment? Nobody in town plays more live music than jazz. Check out our website, jazzkitchen.com, for daily band listings. Both locations, the original on 39th and State Line, and at the Legends in Village West. Jazz, where there's always a party every night.
Some of the best teams in the world are in Kansas City. The Chiefs, the Royals, Sporting, and the Border Patrol.
The Border Patrol? St. John and Bucati? Those 2 guys couldn't hold on.
Easy there, fellas.
We may not be the 2 godfathers of Kansas City sports like you guys are,
but we do know how to have a good time talking sports.
And having a good time like Gary Lezak has a good time.
Make the Border Patrol a part of your morning, just like I do.
Watch Sports Radio 810's Border Patrol, weekday mornings from 7 to 8 on 38 The Spot.
It's a good price. It's low mileage.
They were very straightforward about the lowest price and
no haggling, no hassle type thing. I'm all for that.
How did we do on your trade-in value?
Really well. I was hoping for half of what I got for it.
I got, over what I was thinking I was going to get for it.
We'll be back ourselves. Even if we don't live in the area, we'll figure out a way.
Flavorful steak you'll ever taste. That's why they call themselves Best Filet Mignon. Go to bestfiletmignon.com and order now. Choose between USDA Prime, Choice, or Select. Your steak is cut, vacuum sealed, and shipped fresh, not frozen like Omaha steaks. They even throw in the free shipping. Then grill them up and, well, you'll know what to do after that. Just promise you won't use any steak sauce, and trust me, for the best steak you'll ever taste, guaranteed, go to bestfiletmignon.com. That's bestfiletmignon.com and put in the coupon code Jacobs.
But with 5+ years in the majors, he can turn that down. I don't expect him to be a Royal, and one of the reasons they do all of this is probably a decent chance that they can make a trade over this 10-day period because there'll be some teams that should be wanting him, especially in the National League. All right, Monty, great stuff. Really enjoyed catching up with closer Greg Holland, and we're getting closer and closer. Talk to you next week.
Sounds great, Joel. Thank you.
That is Royals Hall of Fame closer Jeff Montgomery. I'm Joel Goldberg. Stay warm, everybody. Good night.